What's up YouTube, it's Scotty Dog here again, and it's your friendly bitch tit coming at you with another No Man's Sky episode. Today guys, we travel back in time to the year 1957. This is to where it all began. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this episode guys, and let's go back in time to discover where our true ancestors come from. The year is 1957. Sputnik is the first satellite to be launched into low Earth orbit. 1969. Apollo 11. Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin become the first humans to set foot on the moon. 2012. SpaceX become the first privately owned company to supply a cargo load to the International Space Station in low Earth orbit and signals the start of the emergence of private enterprise ventures into space. 2014. Contact. 2018. Combined EU air forces attack North American ports, responsible for people smuggling to Europe. Military operations turn hundreds of thousands of migrants back towards Africa and the Middle East. 2020. The new Cold War between the United States and Russia begins. 2021. Al-Qaeda and the Taliban call end to hostilities with the United States. 2022. United States fires 2 nuclear warheads into the targets in northern Iraq and Syria in retaliation for a dirty bomb detonated in Chicago. 2023. Russia, China, United States embark on first Arctic war over their oil reserves. Using 15 naval battle groups in her fleet, the US contained both Chinese and Russian forces, forcing a retreat. After a 12-month conflict, the US again flexes its nuclear might. A third world war is averted, but the US strikes a number of cities around the world. 2025. Contact. 2028. Space A2Z become the first private company to land on the moon in partnership with NASA. China and Russia follow suit and the second space race begins. 2029. Collapse of the global banking system exactly 100 years after the Wall Street crash sends the world into a continual cycle of violent civil unrest. Around the globe, politicians, bankers and the wealthy are singled out by mobs looking for someone to blame. Russia's ultra-rich, many of Wall Street's bankers are tired and executed. 2032. Space A2Z become the first private company to land on Mars. 2035. Massive breakthrough in carbon nanotechnology. 2040. Bio and solar energy replace fossil fuels as the most productive source of energy. 2044. Birth of fusion power. 2045. Contact. 2047. First private space station is built by a convergence of entrepreneurs with the intention of developing commercial interests on the moon and Mars and nearby asteroids. 2050. Major climate change sees a consistent wide drought and famine in Africa. A surge in mass migration to the north and south, now known as the African Flight of the continent, takes place. European nations use military force to protect their borders. What were once pitted as refugees are now seen as scourge and are forced back to Africa or massacred. 2051. Worldwide migration ensues. Economic climate changes see a mass upheaval around the world. Humanitarianism begins to be seen in the developed world as misproportionate logic. 2052. The tragedy of St. Louis, the major American city, is destroyed with over 100,000 deaths by a wall of tornadoes that sweep across the city caused by the climate changes affecting the world. 2054. First colony established on Mars by a coalition of nations and private corporations. 2055. First mining operation begins on the moon by Russia and American. 2056. The United States of America and Canada form a Northern Alliance after a decade that sees a near death of the Union. The Northern Alliance, alongside the United Kingdom, Greenland, Iceland, Norway, Sweden and the Finland, form a powerful union whose interests are not only for the planet Earth but also for space. 2060. Links are formed by scientists, private businesses, interests and corporations to build the first colonies in space. Within the coming 50 years, they become known as the High Pioneers. 2064. First asteroid captures and mining operation begins. 2065. Contact. 2066. Extinction of many wild species reported due to famine or hunting. Ocean stocks are depleted and genetics take samples for future storage. A global program of stockpiling DNA and specimens starts. 2069. 100 years after the first moon landings, India builds its first manned space colony near the moon. 2071. Russian corporations in collaboration with China build the first human smelters. Rapid colonization of the moon begins. 2078. Space propulsion technology rapidly advances, allowing for exploration of outer solar system. 2082. Skit is the last of its race. 2084. The population of humans living in space exceeds 250,000. 2089. Morgan Baxter Laboratories developed the first EDU imp technologies. 2091. Plans are announced for the building of the first space elevator to begin operations within decades. Sites are chosen around the equator to construct over 50 elevated bases. 2092. Android evolution begins with the major advances in bio-cybernetic development. 2093. North Pole ice caps melt, flooding London and New York, amongst other cities. 2099. Dr. Charles Alexander formulates the doctrine, the creation of ultra-intelligent and super-fast entities to run the day-to-day affairs of mankind, was overseen by a plethora of self-appointed advisors known as the Powers. Mankind's future on Earth becomes dictated by machines and Earth's failing resources. 2101. The Amazon rainforest is now a desert. Global temperatures soar by 10%. The vast tracts of Earth become uninhabitable. 2104. In 20 years, the population living on Earth increases to over 5 million. The figure is again set to quadruple within the 5 years due to the successful operation of the first space elevator. 2105. Genesis, the official name of the newly designated colonies located in the Lagrange point L5. 2106. The Cramarcachian is born in Brizard, France. 2108. The suffocation of 2108, the worsening of weather conditions that culminates in the giant wildfires, the great rivers drying up, and the vast fat tracts of land turning into desert. Droughts and famines ravage the planet. Typhoons and hurricanes batter cities, cause giant tsunamis. Various geoengineering techniques prove ineffective, which leads to the death of over a third of the world's population. 2109. Denton Amadeus elected by Powers as the first head of Human Enterprises, also known as New Humania. A solution to the crisis on Earth, and for the first time a plan of action for mankind outside of Earth is drawn up. He mandates the evacuation of the entire human population from Earth. 2110. Declaration of Denton Amadeus. Legislation is drawn up for the Great Exodus to be carried out within the next 50 years, signalling removal of all humans from Earth. To be relocated in the new space colonies of the Genesis, Mars and the Moon. All colonies are populated with refugees from Earth, and those that refuse will be executed. 2112. Gazelle Spar, a Galaxy General Open Atelier, the first of the giant space elevators off the coast of Guyana. Over the next 2 decades, 50 space elevators are constructed around the Earth's equator. 2115. The Dern-Monroe asteroid is discovered in the asteroid belt. It is the biggest diamond ever found. 2119. Construction of over 1,000 space colonies begins, with many of the old nations of Earth building their own, alongside the newly formed corporations that have grown incredibly wealthy from the new opportunities within the solar system. 2132. Space elevators around the globe constantly undertake the mass departure of whole cities and provinces. Every day, tens of thousands of people are propelled into space. 2133. The higher pioneers established their own independent states within Genesis. 2135. Large-scale automation had led to the corporation becoming incredibly powerful. The rapid growth of android technology leads to transhuman androids becoming largely indistinguishable from humans. Due to the public outrage, transhumans are given a distinguished seal and a 4-year lifespan, through many corporations ignore this dictate. 2144. New colonies established on Saturn's moons Tethys, Titan, Dione, and Enceladus. Vast mining and refining operations are initiated. Ores, minerals, and gases are harvested from Saturn, Jupiter, and throughout the asteroid belt. 2148. The loyal order of android monks, established by the powers with the sole purpose of looking after the monuments of old Earth, initiate a program to protect the remainder of the species left on Earth. A secret agenda is drawn up that sanctions the loyal order to restore the planet back to its natural equilibrium. 2149. Populations on lunar colonies exceed 100 million people. 2150. Virgin Galactic opens the Branson Enterprise crater. 2151. Eradication squads scour the Earth to execute any stragglers of the Exodus or humans evading removal. Under the command of Kramer Gratian, these squads form into a grossest religious factions that become the muscle for the powers. They call themselves the Shadows. 2160. New Humania announces that the economy of Earth and mankind is now entirely dependent on space resources and the colonization of new moons and planets. The deadline for the removal of all humans from Earth is reached, and the final warnings for the remaining individuals. 2163. Terraforming of Mars begins as a giant colonies all over the planet form. 2165. The Hives. An enormous group of space stations and colonies are constructed in the center of Genesis, acting as the home for millions of displaced refugees from the Earth. It soon becomes a ghetto, and with new regulations and laws, many try to seek refuge within an area known as the debris, where the refuse and the garbage of Genesis is dumped. 2166. Formation of the Air Authority in Genesis. The air rights of all human beings living within the newly formed area of the Hive is now overseen by the AA, who under the behest of power ensure that everyone works on the arcs to return for oxygen and shelter. Summary execution is sanctioned to control the society. 2172. A ring of asteroid forts are placed around the Earth and force field activated to prevent anyone in him from returning to Earth. Known as the Celestial Gate, it acts as a barrier and deterrent for every person that now resides in Genesis and the Moon. Educational implanting of Edu limps. Mind uploading becomes popular throughout Genesis. The advancement is seen as normal, with the distinct and significant diversions apparent throughout human society. 2184. Colonies established in the Kuiper Belt. For the first time, mankind expanded the solar system. 2190. Mars declares independence from Genesis and the United Colonies. First Martian War of Independence begins, leading to a civil war amongst the settlers. 2195. After a bitter civil war, the emergence of pro-Martian military knights of Mars seize power and succeed from the United Colony. 2196. Commercial space industry is booming as trade between Genesis, the Moon, Mars and other colonies rapidly increase. Production of colonies and Genesis grows and the population of the Moon and Mars increase as new industries form. 2200. The powers declare the Pax Humania, an empire that decreases to take mankind and human beings to every corner of the galaxy. 2202. The vast constructions of arc-light docks and the first arcs for travel to the stars are set in motion. 2208. The powers pledge there will be more human life throughout the galaxy and provide the first glimpse at the revolutionizing interstellar travel. 2212. First signs of environmental improvement on Earth after 50 years of human removal. 2222. The loyal order of android monks rekindle life in most of the devastated parts of the Earth. The Amazon rainforest begins to grow back. Sea stocks are approaching normal levels. Animals have been returned to their natural inhabitants. And air quality on Earth is back to pre-1700s levels. 2245. The powers return to Earth and headquarter themselves around the globe, building vast palaces and mansions for their wealth. Mankind's future is now being run from Earth, but there is now definitely no possible return for humanity to its home planet. 2256. The population of humans living in space exceeds 3 billion. Over 500 million people now call themselves Martian, with similar numbers living on the moon. Genesis and the outer colonies account for the rest, and the first time in century a population born sees human being born in space, about to exceed the last recording Earth population. 2260. Completion of launch of the first interstellar arc, Odysseus 1, takes 200,000 humans to new life in a new solar system. 2270. Within a decade, production of arcs increased from the 10 per year to 20 per year. Genesis and Arc-Light docks work continually building these huge structures. 2278. Colonies across the mining colonies of the Kuiper Belt revolt and declare independence from New Humania. They are dealt with sternly by the powers. 2288. Mars becomes the leading industrial planet within the solar system. 2293. Interstellar propulsion units for the new generation of arcs is unveiled. The ability to travel hundreds of light years within the lifespan becomes possible, reviving a new surge in exploration. So, this is the story so far. It spans some 350 years into the future. This is the story of No Man's Sky. So guys, that is the end of that episode there. I really do hope you enjoyed this episode. I know it is slightly lengthy, guys, but I just wanted to kind of like go through a kind of lengthy introduction about kind of where No Man's Sky kind of relates to in our society and our life. Obviously, and space nowadays in our real society is quite a big thing. And we have come a long way, guys. We have come a long way in the last kind of 60 or so years. So, yeah, that's basically it, guys. I really do hope you enjoyed this video. Please leave a like. Please comment. Please tell me what you think about this video. Yeah, and please subscribe to the channel, guys. Thanks very much for watching. I love you very much. This is Scotty Dog signing off, and I'll see you on the next No Man's Sky video. Take care.